Legally Speaking with me, Tarun Nangia. This is our continuing series on Chief Justice of India, Justice Chandrachud, completing 150 days in office. There is lots to talk. There is lots to discuss. Also, for the first time, we have a Chief Justice who has, in a sense, is admired by lawyers right from college to lawyers here in their 30s, their 40s. And I'm saying this because I discussed this with so many people, and people really have so much to say about him. And that's why this show today, where we're going to be able to discuss all the decisions that he's taken, and also on the administrative side, also on the judicial side. And I'll introduce you my panel today on this. I have with me Advocate Avishkar Singhvi. As you all know, Advocate Singhvi appears at the Supreme Court of India and the Delhi High Court, besides other forums like NCLT, NCLAT. Good to see you, Avishkar, and looking forward to some interesting insights from your end. I have with me Niharika Karanjawala. She's with Karanjawala and Company. As you all know, it's one of India's leading litigation law firms at the Supreme Court of India. And Niharika is the one who, in a sense, manages those big clients who need to approach forums like the Delhi High Court and the Supreme Court.
In a very small sense.
Right. And she would bring in her inputs on this issue. I have with me Advocate Archit Singh, an advocate that does a lot of cases related to the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, SFIO, also practices at the Delhi High Court and the Supreme Court of India, specializes in financial crimes. He's also associated with law firm Circle of Counsels. Good to see you, and would like to know your perspective inside court of what difference you've seen, as well as on the administrative side. And without wasting much time, let us start. May I request Advocate Avishkar Singhvi that if you could open with one of your favorite subjects that you would like to speak on Justice Chandrachud about. There is lots to talk about him. Could you open with one opening line or one opening thing which you think has made the maximum impact?
Well, this is a part of a series, and I'm sure a lot has been said about Honorable Justice Chandrachud. I don't know where to start, but I would say that in a sense, apart from all the initiatives and apart from all the reforms he's brought to the judiciary, I would say in a sense that the values that he brings to our country, both in the country and both within the judiciary, are something that are the hallmark of not just his own personality, but they reveal a mindset that is highly evolved, and it's highly progressive. And I think it augurs well for the kind of society he sees in the future, India to be. And that sort of, these values sort of permeate below to lower courts and lower judges who get inspired. And that's the idea of having a leader of the institution who doesn't just bring his legal acumen. He's a complete jurist in my view. Over and above being a jurist, he also brings to the table a set of values and principles which are the hallmark of a evolved democratic system. And he goes by the book, and that the book is the holy book, the Constitution. So I would just start by saying that.
Okay, thanks for that opening comment. I'll go to Niharika Karanjawala. Now, your law firm primarily is known as a Supreme Court law firm. Of course, you do cases at NCLT, Delhi High Court, and a lot of other forums, but you made your name as a Supreme Court law firm, one of the top law firms. I want to know your feedback on Justice Chandrachud, your observations. What have you witnessed, and what would you like to point out?
Tarun, I think as we discussed initially, when Chief Justice Chandrachud was initially taking over as chief, there was a big sense of excitement and anticipation, especially because this is a very long, he has a long tenure in Court 1, and as such, a significant amount of time to put in a lot of institutional changes. And 150 days in, I think we'll all agree that that sense of excitement, that sense of anticipation hasn't waned at all. And, I do want to discuss some of what has been done on the administrative side, because there's really so many initiatives that have been undertaken that a lot of us don't relate with, but for the staff of the Supreme Court, for the functionaries of the Supreme Court, makes a huge impact. The property return filing initiatives, the training initiatives, the stress management, communication skills for internally and within the Supreme Court, for all of the people that work there, it makes a huge difference. The most important, I think, though, are the changes made without, the changes made towards the citizenry. And I think it can't be stressed enough. And I know a lot of intellects far greater than I have already expressed this, but I think it bears repetition. It is bringing the citizen closer to the Supreme Court, and it is bringing the common man much closer to the Supreme Court, both in the sense that the court is being made accessible by virtue of constitutional hearings being live streamed to the people, by virtue of judgments being made available online for people to peruse, and especially by virtue of judgments being translated into the vernacular languages. And I believe it is already at least 35,000 judgments that have been translated. And, as native English speakers ourselves, sometimes it doesn't hit home the extent to which a whole section of people is excluded by virtue of the fact that the judgments are only in English, So I think that can't be emphasized enough, and especially the actions taken judicially to safeguard the most vulnerable members of society. There have been a lot of landmark decisions and a lot of landmark things done, and especially in the realm of women's rights with the abortion judgment, as we've seen, especially with regards to the rights of prisoners. I think the Supreme Court is moving towards a rights-oriented and a liberty-oriented framework on every front, which is very, very exciting, especially when we see the fact that 10 bail cases are being heard by every court every day. This, while it may just be something in writing, and it may just be a small initiative for the vast majority of people who hear it, for those 10 cases that are actually being taken up by that court, it is a life or death matter. It is a matter of liberty, which I think is the biggest progress that we've seen in this regard.
Thanks for that opening comment. I'll take this issue to Archit Singh. Archit, what would be, in your view, the top 2-3 things that you would like to point out in your opening comment on what the Chief Justice of India has done?
So, Tarun, I think much has been said about Justice Chandrachud, and I don't think there's much I can disagree with. And that being said, I think the one word that would define the man is that he's a change maker at heart. He has been making a lot of strides in the judiciary, and it's not about just judiciary, it's about the system as we see as a whole. Correct. So I think as the time has progressed, I remember when I was in college, I would often say, are we really doing enough with technology? I mean, what are we doing? There's just 2-3 softwares. There's nothing that's taking place when it comes to the court and the system. But I think in the past few years, we've seen massive changes by leaps and bounds, the way technology has been really integrated with the court. We are yet a long way to go, I would say, yes. But the changes are phenomenal. The changes are something that can show path and a way to the future judges as well, that this is the right way. Because I think a lot of times people do get bogged down by tradition. People do get bogged down by the culture in which the way things have been functioning. But breaking away from those shackles is something I think Justice Chandrachud has done beautifully. He is able to defend his position many times. Like you've seen him at the conclave, we've seen him at different places where he is constantly questioned about the way he's making these changes as well. But we need to remember these changes are crucial if the judiciary has to survive in the modern era. Live streaming has brought, as Niharika rightly said, people closer to the judiciary. Because now when people see earlier judiciary used to be this big whale of cloak. We don't know what's going on behind it. But today, when people see it now, naturally, there will be questions because this is the first time people are seeing the judiciary function. But I think over time, things will settle down. People will start understanding a lot of things that are, spurring up, whether we had a debate on judicial questions being asked in the court and how they can be taken, misconstrued by the people. But I think people will understand. It's a very good start to opening up the court to the people. And yeah, I think these are some of the ways, yeah.
Okay, so I'll take now this point, Archit, to Avishkar Singhvi. You spend a lot of time at the Supreme Court. You also watch the constitutional hearings. You're part of some. Tell me your experience at the Supreme Court under Justice Chandrachud as Chief Justice.
Well, it's still early days, I would say, in the proportion in which his tenure is. But I see that there's a sense of proportionality in the way in which he proceeds to deliver justice in each and every case that he's hearing. And that sense of proportionality is the main value that he brings to the table. If you see any case where he's deciding, even if he's opposed to the idea, he will ensure that he will give reasons for each and every point on why he differs or agrees with the point. For example, Archit just mentioned the issue of live streaming. I mean, the judgment of Swapnil Kothari. I had written a little article on your channel earlier, where I had disagreed with the idea of live streaming for my own reasons. And I thought, why stir up frenzy in a country with so many people, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of reasons I've given in that article, but the ideology that he has is access to justice. And we all must agree that, when a person has a clean heart and a clean conscience and he wants to make a change, there will always be people who may agree, disagree, but as long as you're putting reasons out on the table, and this is what is happening in the same-sex marriage case, you see a sense of dialogue between the bar and the bench. It's not a perverse manner in which decisions are taken. It is a very judicious approach. And that judicious approach is I see it as a hallmark of his judicial experience and the manner in which he's proceeded. But I mean, for example, if you look at any area which is equal rights for women, if you look at, individual privacy of the individual, autonomy of an individual, we must remember that we are individuals in a country, although we have those individual bouquet of rights, and he's reinforced the idea of an individual. You have your own privacy, you have your own sexuality, you may have several other rights, which Justice Chandrachud, being a libertarian, sincerely believes in. And he doesn't just believe in from his own ideology, he believes in borrowing from other constitutions. So it's all a precedential sort of way in which he's progressing. And you look at for example, abolishing illegal practices under special religions, all of those areas which he wants to take up. Then, for example, environmental degradation is a matter which is close to his heart. He's written a judgment, I remember, when he wasn't chief, where he mentioned that the EIA must be a sine qua non to every project. Their environment impact assessment in Hanuman Lakshman judgment, which is now oft cited in the Supreme Court. That's Justice Chandrachud's judgment. And what an amazing judgment, that every project must be preceded with a proper environment impact assessment, because so many projects were going through without any, actual assessment of the damage to the environment that is to be caused. So I can keep telling you several, initiatives and several judgments he's written, but look at the other initiatives which are on the administrative side. For example, encouraging, the IT talent to come and give their innovative solutions. That's another area where he's encouraging young programmers to give us solutions of how you can change the manner in which, the judgments are stored, etc. All of that. Neutral citations, for example, you must have already heard of. This was something which was all before we all spoke about it, but the change has come now after so many changes in the Supreme Court. So there I can go on and on, but overall, I mean, the word is progressive, the word is liberal, and the word is a complete jurist. I mean, I can't re-emphasize that point. So that's the idea. And I think by the end of his tenure, he's taken on from where Justice Lalit left. But if I were to say that Justice Lalit had actually initiated a lot of these good initiatives, like hearing the heavy matters on the 3 days in the middle, and hearing on the miscellaneous days, you hear the short matters, and then you hear the final hearings in the morning on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. This idea was Justice Lalit's idea. It's a brilliant concept. So these initiatives, of course, Justice Lalit had a very short tenure, but now I hope Justice Chandrachud can, bring these ideas to fruition in the next 6 or 10 months before he sort of.
Indeed, as you said, that these are actually early days. There is a lot more that we will get to see him doing, and also then discuss about with you. And you because you are at Supreme Court, you'll get to witness it firsthand. We'll get to know from you. We'll also go to
live law first.
So we'll go to Niharika Karanjawala. Niharika, two things. Of course, he's doing these imported cases on abortion. Remember, we did a show on that some time back. It was a very, very good show. A lot of people responded about, women's right to abortion, with sensitive issues being given thought. But on the other side, bail issues. So many bails being listed. What do you think? What message has gone down to the business and the industry because of this one decision of the Chief Justice of India?
It's twofold, Tarun. I'm so glad you asked that because I think it's so important. And especially practicing criminal law myself, I tend to focus on this aspect of it. And I was overjoyed to see this aspect being put into practice. One, on the whole, I think it reinforces to everybody that the liberty of the individual is paramount. This has always been theoretical in our law, and it is now practical as it comes across. It is actually being put into practice, which is a wonderful thing to see. Secondly, as you pointed out, with regards to businessmen and with regards to investment, with regards to things like that, it is also very significant because we have a lot of very high-powered agencies. We have agencies like the ED, we have high-powered acts like the PMLA, we have situations like we've discussed, the situation of lookout circulars before, where things are literally sprung on people at the last minute. People fear incarceration unfairly. People fear incarceration in a situation where mere allegations of any kind of financial discrepancy are raised against them. And as a result, it brings about a hesitance to want to get into business in India because there is a feeling that, oh, well, once you're in there, the backlog of the system is so immense that who knows when you're getting out, who knows when you will actually be brought forth before the court. And when it is shown that this being geared towards the liberty of the individual is not just a theoretical thing for us anymore, but a very practical thing. The trickle-down effect on this for Indian industry will be massive because it will show that there is a lack of arbitrariness in our system. There is a sense of fairness in our system. And I think Justice Chandrachud himself had said that the faith of citizens lies in the fair sense of the judicial system. And this couldn't be more true. When this is restored and when people feel that there is a fairness to a system and no arbitrariness to a system, whether that system is going in your favor or not, that is one thing that you must respect and you must uphold as paramount, a fair sense of that system. Also, two very interesting things Avishkar had mentioned that I just wanted to touch upon really quickly before we move on. One being the question of reaching out to IT experts and reaching out even for public opinion. I believe the Supreme Court has reached out for public opinion on the neutral citations judgment, for any public opinion that might come in to tweak the system with regards to these. And secondly, with regards to the question of live streaming proceedings, I think a lot of people had the same apprehensions that Avishkar did have, which is in a country like ours where there is a lot of diversity and there's also to a certain degree in the general public a reactionary outlook, where people can get agitated, emotions can run high, and a lot of criticism can be thrust forward, especially with the anonymity that the internet provides people these days. I think it really speaks to the courage of the Supreme Court under Chief Justice Chandrachud in being willing to put themselves forward in this manner and being willing to be subject to the criticism and to the scrutiny of the world at large. I think it speaks to a great sense of courage, and especially with regards to inviting suggestions, I think it goes a great way towards the demystification of the Supreme Court in the mind of the common people. It becomes an institution with which the common man can have some resonance and the common man can have something that they can relate with. And that is not, that has not been true of the Supreme Court for a great deal of time, because while people may be familiar with their own district courts to a large extent, they may be familiar with their own high courts in their states to a large extent, the Supreme Court for a large amount of the country was an institution shrouded in this sort of mystic power, and this demystification will go a long way towards establishment of legal literacy and establishment of the citizenry's faith and support continuously of the citizenry's faith in the court and the judicial system at large.
Okay, that's an interesting insight into what all has been happening and why it is a positive impact on society. I'll take this to Archit Singh. Archit, now, when you do these criminal cases, liberty is something that comes up in discussion almost always, especially if you see cases like PMLA. In this light, what Justice Chandrachud has done, not on PMLA, but on liberty of an individual, liberty of a businessman, his right to carry out his businessman without fear that, he may be just thrown in jail, and even before he's convicted, he would have spent 2 years. Could you reflect on that?
So, Tarun, I remember we had a conversation about this separately as well. And I think one of the most important things that have been going around is when Justice Chandrachud goes out in the public or within court, speaks about the importance of bail matters being listed, as Niharika had also pointed out. The way things are trickling down and the message that sends down the society is very important. And the message is not just sent to the society. I mean, Niharika has very beautifully elaborated how it sends the message to the businessmen, to the investors, and no one can disagree with that. But it also sends down a message to the judiciary as well, that, hey, you can give bails, that please do look at these aspects. You have to give them importance. It's not a question of whether you give bail or not. That is a subject matter of the case at hand, the facts. But it is also a subject matter of the outlook that you need to have, that there is no fear of backlash, because often people do have a bit of a fear of backlash. Will my judgment be upheld? Oh, am I being too liberal? Will the High Court not appreciate it? Will the Supreme Court not appreciate it? But when it comes from the Chief Justice of India, that it is of paramount importance. Personal liberty needs to be prioritized in this country. It does send a good message. And this message is then reciprocated by the investors, by the business community as well. Now, recently we had a judgment, and I think you remember we spoke about this, where we speak about the aspect of supplementary charge sheets and supplementary prosecution complaints.
Yes.
Have often been a bar for people to be incarcerated even when investigations have been ongoing. Now, see, this outlook of the new Supreme Court on the way they are also looking at financial crimes, because if you remember, we had become a country in the beginning which became a little restricted. We were afraid of the economic offenses and the impact it has had on the country. And it has had a very bad and adverse impact on the country. No one is denying that. But over time, the court has taken a more libertine approach to things. And I think this is a very positive message that the court sends. Now, Tarun, before I depart, I would also say, while on the judicial front, these are great things, but you also can't forget things on the administrative front. For example, we've recently started using artificial intelligence, and I practice in trial courts as well, as you know. And I remember watching the Bombay subject matter proceedings, wherein the live transcription was going on in court. And it couldn't hit me better that this is exactly what our trial courts have also been missing when it comes to recording evidence. This is exactly what we require for clearing backlogs. This is the beautiful integration of what technology can contribute to our judicial system. And perhaps in the coming years, this is something I would really look forward to being incorporated in the judicial system as well.
Thanks for that insight on the later part of your answer. I'll now take this. I have about 2 minutes left, so I'll just squeeze in a last comment. Avishkar, you want to come in?
Just two quick points on the issue of transparency, which Justice Chandrachud, when he observed on the issue of no sealed covers being passed around in the Supreme Court. Then the issue with regard to the Election Commission judgment, which was not passed by him, but it was passed by Justice Joseph during his tenure, is also a very strong message with regard to institutions, credibility of institutions. And the issue of the judicious approach, again, in that I don't know if you're aware of the Master Circular case, where he said the hearing must be read into every aspect of administrative action. So these are recent judgments which evince a sort of a manner in which he deems it appropriate to decide cases. And that philosophy runs through thick and thin through all his decisions and all his speeches out there as well, I guess. So that's just what I wanted to say on that. But I mean, just one point regarding artificial intelligence. I think how far you can go with artificial intelligence is also something we should consider, because ultimately we are a system where we appreciate a system of open justice in courts. So I don't know how far you want to push the envelope of artificial intelligence and have everything online. So otherwise, machines will be doing everything tomorrow. But we can take the assistance of artificial intelligence, but not make humans redundant, is my viewpoint. Because ChatGPT, I don't know if you're aware now, and if that comes to the Supreme Court, I think a lot of people will find it, anxious for them to survive on a daily basis. You can just feed in a query, and it'll give you a well-informed response. So I think that is something we must consider as a way to protect ourselves. Sort of a.
But one good thing that I would like to end by saying is I feel really happy when I see advocates with the ability to appear online. They don't have to rush from forum to forum, from Supreme Court to NCLT, from NCLT to Delhi High Court, from Delhi High Court to some other forum. Sometimes it feels it's a waste of time. You spend so much time traveling from one place and Delhi traffic. And the ability to appear online has greatly improved accessibility to justice also for the litigants as well, not only for lawyers. I think
as well as for lawyers and litigants who are in other states and physically cannot come here every time because of the expense.
And who other than you would understand with so many Supreme Court cases that your law firm does? Because so of course, I agree completely. But appreciate all three of you could make time. Advocate Avishkar Singhvi, Niharika Karanjawala from Karanjawala and Company, Advocate Archit Singh from Circle of Counsels. We will do one more show when Justice Chandrachud completes 250 days in office. And knowing his track record, we'll have much more to discuss as a lot of reforms gather speed. Of course, I think a lot of judgments would be coming. So I think to decode them and discuss them would be very interesting. And these judgments would be worth discussing and decoding and explaining to people. So I think look forward to doing that with all of you. Thank you so much for joining in today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tarun.
Thank you.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.